Hello everyone. This video is part of a series where we are developing a microservices-based social media application. We are using NodeJS for our back-end services and React for our front-end. And our main interest or our main goal is to learn the microservices pattern. Here is an overview of the tasks we are currently working on and our plan for the near future. Of course, there is much more to come than the tasks listed here, but this gives a general overview of what we will be working on. In the second diagram, I provide a more detailed breakdown so that you can also examine it by yourself if you want to pause the video and do so. We also have a Jira Board where we track the progress of our tasks, and you may see me coming here quite often in the future once we move on with the development. In the previous video, we have finished refactoring our pre-save and pre-update hooks in Mongoose. It may be the case we come back to this afterwards because I'm not 100% satisfied with the process that we have for saving and creating or for updating a new user. I think that we can improve on that and make the interface more standardized. I'm not very satisfied with the fact that we always need to account for either calling a save method or an update method, and but I don't want to stop development because of that. We'll come back to this later on once we are done with the verification email functionality and do one video on what can be a small refactoring. If it doesn't happen, if we see that the structure is good enough, then we will just proceed. But what I want to work on this video is I want to implement the account verification model. So a couple of videos back, I have provided an overview of how we are going to store this information in the database. And in this overview, what I do is I use two different models, right? So one is for the user model, and the other one is for the account verification model. So the account verification model is responsible for storing the token, the email verification token, and the user ID. And then once the user accesses a certain URL, then we will go to the account verification. We will check if we can find that ID in the account verification model, so in the account verification collection. And if we can find the provided ID or the provided token, then we will get the corresponding user ID and mark the user as verified in our database. So let's start with the implementation of our account verification class or our account verification model. Because we are in a test-driven environment, we will come to the models here, and before we start any implementation, I'll create a new file in the underscore tests directory. This is going to be called AccountVerification.test.ts. And then I will start writing down what I want this account verification test file to do. So it tests the account verification Mongoose model. And we have a couple of desired behaviors here, right? So first, let's think about it. If I want to save a token for a user that does not exist, then I should have an error, right? And also, I should not be able to save a token if the token is not valid. So we'll also have some conditions for validity in our token, and we want to ensure that when we save the token is valid. So if we change, let's say for some reason, a new developer enters the project and they want to change the account verification or the token generation process, and they don't update the test, then it's not going to be possible to commit the changes, right? So we will ensure that the token has a certain shape. So the first one that I want to implement is that it should not save a new account or a new account verification document if no valid user is provided. And this is going to be an async function. And here, what we are going to do is, well, we'll simply generate a new token. So email verification token. And here we will say generate account verification token. And then you'll say that, okay, this will immediately fail, right? So it doesn't work because we don't have the function generate account verification token. So let's start our jest tests or our test runner, npm run test : watch. And this is going to fail because this function is not defined. So we will already start being a little bit more proactive, and we will come here to the utils folder where we will create a new directory, and this is going to be account verification. And within this directory, I'm going to create a new tests file or a test directory. And within my test directory, I'll create again account verification.test.ts. Now you may be wondering, well, the files have the same name, maybe you should do something about it to change. Well, I'm fine with it. They are clearly in different directories, and the models, I don't want to pollute the models directory with non-model related files, so we'll put them under the utils folder. Later on, once we have a microservices structure here, it may be the case that a lot of these things, a lot of these files and directories will shuffle around a little bit in the folders that we have or under our root project folder. So for the moment, I'm not that worried about the structure. So here I have my tests for the account verification utility, which is going to be responsible for generating the token. Now, how do we want to generate the token, right? So this is a question whether of how secure the token has to be and how unique the token has to be. So the idea is that we want to ensure uniqueness as much as possible. We don't want to have two equal tokens in our database, because if we have two equal tokens, then this is going to be bad because we can verify two users with the same token, right? Or we will always verify the user that is found first. So we want to ensure uniqueness. Now we could use Mongoose's inherent _ID field in order to be the token itself, but I would prefer to generate a new token, right? So I wouldn't say it's a bad practice to use the _ID field in the external world, as long as there are no major, let's say, no major security concerns. It's okay to use it, but for the sake of best practice here, we will stick to generating the token ourselves. So what I would like here to do is I would like to describe a couple of tests, and the describe here will test the token generation function. That's everything it's going to do. So it will have a test. It should produce a string of length 64. Maybe we could even write an additional test to be an hexadecimal string, but here for the length of 64 is already enough. So what I would expect is I would expect the function generate, what was the name again? I want to name it again. Generate account verification token dot to have length of 64. Okay, so this is already enough. This test is also going to fail, but I will come back to my account verification directory in the utils folder, and I'll create a new file, account verification. And here I can finally export my function. So I'll simply, for the purpose of generating the random string, I will import random bytes from the native library crypto. And here I will export a function that is called generate account verification token, which does not receive any parameters, but it returns a string. And all it has to do, it has to return a random bytes of size 32.2 string using the hexadecimal encoding. And what happens is that when we convert the bytes to a hexadecimal string, it doubles the size of whatever number I have here. So if I have 32 bytes, the resulting string is going to have 64 characters. Now I can finally import this here. Actually, I'll do it a little bit better. I'll also create an index file where I will export everything from account verification, like so. Oops. So now I can import also from /index. And then within my models folder or my models tests, then I can simply import directly from utils/account verification. So now let's save, and I believe that now our tests should start to pass. Exactly. Now our tests are passing, and we can continue with the development of our account verification model. So now we have the first test here, that it should not save a new account verification document if no valid user is provided. So remember that when we are running our tests, we have the setup that says, or that instructs Mongoose to clean all the collections before each test, right? So here I get all the collections. I delete all the documents from all of the collections, meaning that when I start this test, I have no user whatsoever in my collections. So whatever Mongoose ID or whatever object ID I pass to my account verification, for example, when I pass a user ID and a token and I say account verification.create with this information, then it's not going to find our users, or it should. Let's say it in a more precise way. So if I pass an object ID that does not exist in the user database, then the account verification should fail, right? I should not be able to create an account verification document within my account verification collection. So what I would expect here, I would expect an await, and because, or actually it's not, the await is outside, right? Because I want the promise to be returned here. So await expect account verification dot create, and then of course this is also going to fail because we don't have an account verification model yet, but I will already pass the parameters that I want to work here with. So new Mongoose, oops, and it should not import star as Mongoose, it should just import Mongoose from Mongoose, because it's going to be mongoose.types.object_id. So I'm creating a random object ID here, and I will pass the email verification token. And I would expect this to reject and to throw an error, user could not be found, like so. Now, as you may see here, I am throwing an error, a generic error, and I think this is okay for the moment, because remember that our setup here in the middleware, so in the error handler middleware, if we throw a generic error, we will simply return an instance, or we will return a status of 500, which means that there was some internal server error. And this is exactly what's happening here. So if our process is well set up, it does not depend on the user input, right? So the failing cause, the cause for the error, will never be the user input. It may be some problem in our system, it may be some bug or something from any library that may cause this to fail, or some timeout, or some unavailability. I don't know what can be the cause. It can be many causes. I mean, machines can fail for random reasons, but it's going to be an internal error. So here we are going to throw just a new error, and we are not going to go back to our base custom error and extend this. So we are interested in this case in just throwing an error with a simple message, not a custom error, because this internal error is not supposed to be sent to the user, because otherwise the user could start getting more information than what we want to expose. So here, this internal error is supposed to be caught by this error handler middleware, and then it will look at it and say, oh, okay, it's not an instance of base custom error, so I'll just send a very generic 500 return code to the user. Okay, so that's why I am already putting the message here. Now we don't have an account verification class yet, or a model, so let's quickly create one, because I think this video is already getting a little bit long. But here I will simply create a very basic account verification. So I'll cheat a little bit. I'll come here to my user model, copy a few things, right? Copy it here. And as you can see, the tests are passing because I didn't save the file. I just created a new one, but I'll just save this for the sake of making the tests fail. So now the test should start to fail because I don't have the account verification. So I copy this here and I will change a little bit. That's going to be account verification document. And here I'm interested in having a user ID. And the user ID is going to be of type mongoose.types.objectID. And I also have an email verification token. And this is going to be of type string. Now my account verification model is going to be mongoose.model with the account verification document, and the account verification schema is going to be a new mongoose.schema, which is going to receive our information. So let's write it here. The user ID is going to be of type mongoose, not mongo, but mongoose.types, or I think it's .schema.types.objectID, and it is of course required, right? So we need to pass the user ID. And the other field that we are interested in is the email verification token. So the email verification token, it will be of type string and it will be required. And later on, we will add additional validation to this field. But for the moment, this is enough for us. So now I will come back here to my user file just to copy at the bottom here what I want to do, or the implementation. So let me remove the user here. I don't need it anymore. Now here, instead of user document, I will add the account verification document, and instead of the user model, I pass the account verification model. Here the name is going to be account verification, and the user schema is going to be substituted with the account verification schema. Now I will export as default. Let me write this account verification, and I will export this default as account verification. Now in my index file, I can then finally export everything from /account verification, and I can export my default as account verification from account verification. Okay, now in my tests, I believe that I will be able to import this already from /index. Now, as you can see here, once we save this, we will not have the error. So this test here is going to fail because the account verification.create is going to pass, right? It's not going to throw any error, but at least we have some different message here. So it's saying that we expected a promise rejected, but instead we received a promise resolve, and it resolved to a certain value. As you can see, this is an example of our email verification token, right? So this is quite nice here to have. So how do we make this test pass? Well, as you may expect, all we need to implement here is a pre-save hook, right? So after our schema, we can actually have a account verification schema.pre, and there's going to be save. And then I'll have async function verify user exists, right? Like so. And I can pass this argument, which is going to be of type account verification document. And then within here, I'll simply say const user await user.find1, and here, or actually better than find one, let's use the find by ID, because then I just need to pass this.user ID. And let me import the user class or the user model here. Maybe I can even import from /user to prevent any conflicts. I mean, yeah, sometimes you can have some import conflicts. So if there is no user, I want to throw my error, right? If there is no user, I want to throw a new error with the message user could not be found. And now for the sake of completeness, I'll just copy and paste this message within my test, but I think they are the same exactly. And now if I save this, now my tests should pass. Exactly, now everything is passing. So this was our goal for this video. We have implemented the account verification model, and we are now able to store email verification tokens in our database. There is still a few things missing. For example, we would like to have, or we would like to prevent the account verification document from being created if the token is not valid. And we would also like to regenerate the token if the token is already in the database, right? So if we can find a certain account verification document by the email verification token, then we want to regenerate this email verification token. These are the two steps that are missing in our account verification model or Mongoose model. And once this is implemented, we will then go back to the sign up route and we will generate the token, and we will finally format the email and send the email with the link to the user so that the user can verify his or her email information. Okay, so if you are interested in receiving updates about the future videos that I will be uploading soon, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. I try to upload videos every day, at least twice a day. So every day of the week, seven days a week. So there will be a lot of content coming up, not only in this series, but also in other series that I am planning to implement. And also, if you're interested in topics related to development, make sure to write a couple of suggestions in the comments. Maybe I can think of some series or some courses, some playlists, or even some standalone videos that could help you address some of the topics that you have trouble with or that you're interested on. So just write it in the comments, and I will take it into consideration when planning the future videos in the channel. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.